Good morning, everyone. This is Bill Miles, and once again, welcome to the Chambers Tele-Town Hall. If you're like me, I know you're enjoying a little bit of this cooler weather on this second day of fall, and looking forward to a beautiful rest of the week here. You know, it's hard to believe. I was thinking that we're a few days away from moving into the fourth quarter of 2020, and as I think back, really the only thing is certain is the uncertainty. And that continues, and as we look forward to trying to wrap up this year of 2020, and certainly hopeful and optimistic about 2021. We've got a great lineup of speakers for you this morning. We're delighted we'll be having Senator Tom Davis join us, also Dr. Jane Kelly. And as you'll remember, she was on with us last week, and she's the Assistant State Epidemiologist with the Department of Health and Environmental Control. So we'll be glad to have her. And then we'll have the Deputy Town Manager, Josh Gruber, and he'll be sharing some new information with us about the Low Country Celebration Park. And then we'll conclude this morning's call with Dr. Frank Rodriguez, the Superintendent of Beaufort County Schools. From an economic standpoint, we were very pleased to finally see in July that our tourism industry was really starting to rebound somewhat after historic economic low, not only in the Low Country, but really all around the nation. And as we moving into this fall, we know that there are a couple significant challenges out there for us to overcome. And certainly one of those is the loss of corporate and group business that our hotels really count on during the fall months as well as the spring months and year round. And so that will be something that we're going to have to look at filling from a leisure and transient standpoint. And then also that the postponement of Concourse, which is a signature event for us in the fall, as you all know. And what you might not know is it brings in about 18,000 visitors from 45 different states and has an economic impact of over $12 million. So those are a couple of the challenges that we have as we move into this fall season. And I know we're all in this together, and we'll battle as hard as we can and try and make up for those losses. You know, when we talk about the economic outlook, it's always important, and we always continue to talk about tourism because it's simply the lifeblood and the economic engine of every business here in the Low Country. And today, to talk really on a broader perspective about what's going on in the state of South Carolina, we're delighted to have with us Senator Tom Davis. And Tom, he travels the roads between Columbia and Beaufort County and frequently, and he's one of the hardest working leaders that we have in Columbia. And fortunately, he's our lawmaker. And I also want to put in a plug for our Lunch with Lawmakers that Hannah Horn will be hosting. She hosts those on Tuesdays. The next one will be on October the 16th. We'll have Senator Davis back with us again, so you'll be able to have more insight from Senator Davis. As we know, it's important that all the voters are well informed with the election just looming right around the corner. And so Kelly will put in the chat box the registration for that. But without any further ado, let's jump into our first speaker this morning. That's Senator Tom Davis. Tom's calling in from Columbia this morning. Tom, welcome, and we're delighted to have you this morning.
Morning, Bill. Yeah, we go in about 10 o'clock this morning to continue working through the Senate calendar and probably wrap up our business today, maybe spill over to tomorrow. There's a lot of good things going on for our region right now, as many of your members are probably aware. A few weeks ago, we had a huge announcement in Hampton County, $350 million of private investment, over 1,000 acres for a controlled agribusiness enterprise, which is going to be extraordinarily successful. Just the other day, we had an announcement at Exit 3 at Riverport in Jasper County, which is going to be even bigger in terms of job creation. Hampton County has 1,500 jobs. The Exit 3 Riverport development will be more than that, more private capital. In addition to that, you've got the Sherwood tract, another large tract in Jasper County that could be an OEM facility very soon. We're working on that. So a tremendous amount of private capital and economic development in our nearby rural areas. And I'm really excited about that. You also know, Bill, that this year the State Infrastructure Bank had $360 million to spend on roads and bridges. And half of that money, $180 million, came to Beaufort and Jasper counties. And that's incredibly important. I mean, as you know, we're going to repair and replace and improve the Gateway Corridor, the bridge. We're in process of working on plans there, but keeping that on track. We got I-95 being repaved and widened from the Georgia-South Carolina line all the way to the Walterboro exit. I mean, these are all things that our delegation has been working on for quite some time with Governor McMaster and also Christy Hall at DOT. And we're really starting to see our region, for the first time really in a long time, getting its fair share of public dollars. You've seen Charleston and the larger Charleston area, Berkeley, Dorchester, Charleston County do well in the past. You saw Greenville explode along that Greenville-Spartanburg corridor. You're starting to see our region, Beaufort, Jasper, Hampton counties, starting to see economic development, infrastructure money, economic attention coming to our area. And that's really exciting. From a statewide perspective, Bill, yesterday I served on the conference committee that reconciled the House and the Senate versions of how to spend the remaining $600 million of CARES Act relief money. And we were very conservative with that money. $420 million of it went to the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund to replenish that balance. Because if we hadn't done that, then there would have to be taxes on businesses throughout South Carolina to replenish that fund balance, which has been paid down, as you know, the last few months because of the unemployment rolls. So really excited about that. Excited about the things that we're working on for Beaufort County. And I really think the next 10 years are going to be our decade. And so I look forward to, future good news in the days ahead.
Tom, that's terrific. And the $180 million of infrastructure bank money that's coming to this region due to your leadership and others in the delegation is something that I know from a leadership standpoint, you all have been working on very, very hard for years. We have a question from you. Our first one is from Adrian, and Adrian's asking if you could just elaborate a little bit more on Exit 3 and what will be taking place there.
Right. Exit 3 obviously is 3 miles closer to the Georgia-South Carolina line than the existing Exit 8, where Highway 278 intersects with I-95. Riverport is the primary manufacturer there. It's going to be a distribution center, manufacturing, complementary to the port in Savannah. And also what it does, Bill, is as you see economic development in those rural parts of Hampton and Jasper County, it accentuates the need for that deep water port on the Jasper County side of the Savannah River. It's kind of a chicken and egg kind of a thing. But the economic development there is going to heighten an awareness of the need for that port. And in fact, Governor McMaster said at the press event when we talked about this Exit 3 and Riverport, he said that this accelerates the timeline for the Jasper port. So I'm focused like a laser, I have been for several years, on moving that forward and making sure that Jasper County is the site for these larger generation ships that are coming in that really Savannah can't handle because the Talmadge Bridge has an air restriction. The big ships can't get under it to get to the Garden City Terminal. Charleston has a similar problem in regard to their bridges. There is no such constraint in regard to Jasper County. So seeing the sort of manufacturing, distribution center, and economic development at Riverport and Exit 3 furthers the argument we're making about the need for the Jasper port. I would also touch upon this. I think it's important that over the last few years, we have been restoring funding parity in other areas for Beaufort County. For instance, USC Beaufort used to be funded at 38% of the per pupil average. That's been increasing over time. It's now at 78%. of the per pupil average, and next year it will be 100%. So we did the same thing with K through 12. We've increased K through 12 spending, state dollars for Beaufort County, by 45%. So we're really, kind of getting in the trenches, the delegation, where the budget gets passed, and making sure that of the dollars that our constituents are sending up to Columbia, making sure that an equitable portion of them come back down to us across the board, whether it's roads and bridges, K through 12, USC Beaufort, Technical College of the Lowcountry, economic development, any number of things. And the reason I'm running again for the state senate and not trying to do something else or move on to some higher quote unquote thing is I feel like right now our delegation is in a position to really deliver for our region. And I'm really excited about what the next 10 years holds for us.
Senator, when I said you were one of the hardest working lawmakers in Columbia, I sincerely meant that. And you mentioned laser focused. And throughout the years, you have certainly been laser focused, and we appreciate that. We've got another question for you from Ellis. And Ellis is asking what you're seeing being some of the biggest challenges that you're facing in Columbia right now on behalf of the state.
I think, really the X factor is, what is the fall going to bring in terms of COVID-19? We're being very aggressive in expanding our testing, rolling out saliva-based tests, which are more easily administered. They're less invasive to individuals, and you get the results turned around in 24 hours. Working on our mitigation strategies in regard to if you test positive, making sure that you notify others that may have been in contact with the person to have them self-isolate. I don't think we can let our guard down in respect to the virus. And so right now, that's a big concern. I've been involved in heading up the Senate's testing subcommittee for the last few months, making sure that we ramp up those tests, making sure that businesses, quite frankly, have the opportunity to have their employees tested. As you know, Bill, in the food and beverage industry, a lot of these owners want their employees to be tested so they can reassure their customers that it's safe. And so I think that's the biggest thing right now is to not let our guard down in regard to the virus. But working together, I'm confident we can pull through this.
Just a couple more questions for you, as I know you need to get ready for your 10 o'clock. Question here from Lily, and Lily is asking, when do you feel there'll be a saliva-based test available for South Carolina, or even more specifically, Southern Beaufort County?
Yeah, I think a matter of days. USC in Columbia, the Columbia campus, they received emergency use authorization from the FDA to do widespread saliva testing of their students. And they've been doing several thousand saliva tests a day. What USC intends to do is expand that outward to its satellite campuses. And then further beyond that, working with DHEC to set up these mobile test sites throughout the state. So I think, it's been very successful in Columbia. They've really worked out the bugs of the system, and they understand how to do it on a mass scale. And that's the key here. There's been a shift in strategy. We're not simply testing people diagnostically who have symptoms. We're mass testing whole populations and encouraging people to be tested irrespective of whether they have any symptoms. Because by doing that, you get a better picture of the virus's prevalence, and you can engage in really successful mitigation strategies. So direct answer to that question, in a matter of days, I anticipate sites throughout the state having these portable labs with saliva tests. And again, it's not as invasive as the PCR, the nasal swabs. You just spit into a vial, and you get the results back more quickly, because when you assay the sample in the lab, you don't have to use a reagent to separate out something to be tested. You can just test the saliva itself. So it's much more, you can get a result much more quickly.
All right. Thank you, Senator, for that answer. And final question this morning coming from Kim. And Kim is asking if the legislature is working on providing COVID relief funding for nonprofit organizations. And she's saying it was reported this week that more than 50% of nonprofit organizations in the state will be bankrupt in 3 to 6 months.
Right. And that's one of the things I'm really proud of in our conference committee yesterday in resolving how to spend that remaining $600 million of CARES Act money. There is going to be a grant program for 501c3 and charitable organizations. And we further amended that to include the arts, because we realize that a lot of art venues, live music, plays, they're suffering, obviously, because they depend upon congregate settings, and they've been unable to engage in any business activity at all. So I'm really proud of the fact that we set aside, I believe it was $50 to $60 million And there will be details forthcoming in regard to how 501c3s can make their applications to receive those grants.
Senator, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Keep fighting the good fight and hurry back home to Beaufort County.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bill. Take care.
Thank you. All right, that was Senator Tom Davis, and we're delighted that also we have people not only listening on this call, but watching on Facebook Live, as well as via the Beaufort County channel as well. And we're going to transition now to Dr. Jane Kelly. And as I mentioned earlier, she's the Assistant State Epidemiologist. Our first conversation with Dr. Kelly was last week, and we're delighted to have her back this week to give us an update.
Well, thank you. And good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to join you on this call. Last week, I felt I had presented a huge onslaught of numbers. And today, what I'd like to do is be more pithy and focus on some specific numbers and then focus on discussing a few topics. For example, as Senator Davis pointed out, we can't let our guard down. And he mentioned some things about ramping up testing. And I'd like to tell you a little bit more about that, what the different tests mean and what we're doing in nursing homes. And I'd also like to talk a bit about masks, schools, and some added features on DHEC's website. First, let's go ahead and do some key facts, some key numbers. Over the past week, we've had 3,967 new confirmed cases in South Carolina, and that means for a total of 134,884 statewide. And we also, unfortunately, have had 97 new deaths for a total of 3,040 deaths in South Carolina. During that same time period, Beaufort County had 164 new confirmed cases for a total of 5,391. There were 4 new confirmed deaths in Beaufort County for a total of 78 confirmed deaths and 3 probable. Hilton Head had 28 new confirmed cases for a total of 976. Bluffton had 50 new confirmed cases for a total of 1,545. Now, I've been using these terms confirmed, and you may have also read on the website or in news briefs about probable tests, and I just want to clarify what that means. A confirmed case is one that's had a positive PCR test. That's the nasal swab or the nasopharyngeal swab test, the one that it takes longer to do, it's more technically complicated, but it's the gold standard because it's more sensitive, meaning it's more likely to pick up cases because it's an amplification test. And it's highly specific as well. So it's the gold standard, it's the best test in terms of giving the most accurate result, but it takes time. Probable cases are the ones where they didn't have the PCR test, but they had a rapid antigen test. An antigen is a protein that's on the surface of the virus. Those are the rapid tests. They also take a nasal swab, but those are the ones that are being done, for example, in nursing homes. And they're being done it varies with the nursing home, but many of them are doing nasal swabs on all residents and staff every week. It gives a rapid answer, often in some cases as quickly as 15 minutes. So you can also screen visitors. It's not as sensitive. It's going to miss some cases. It's not as sensitive as the PCR test. However, it is very specific, meaning you can really trust it. If it's positive, you know it's positive. And the fact that you can do them so frequently has been a real key player, as Senator Davis pointed out. It's been a real key player in decreasing the number of cases in nursing homes and finding them early so that we can put quarantine in place and keep the disease from spreading. Now, I want to say a couple of words about a confirmed versus a probable death from COVID-19. What does that mean? A confirmed death has 2 features. One, that we have a positive test. And the other is that the death certificate, which is signed by a physician who declares the person deceased, the death certificate confirms that the death was related to COVID-19. So if somebody had a COVID test 2 weeks earlier and then was in a car accident and died, they most likely would not be considered a confirmed death because I don't think the death certificate is going to read death related to COVID-19. So that's what a confirmed death is. We do also report probable deaths because there's a delay in the information that we get at the health department about causes of death. So a probable death means either that we're missing a lab test or that we have a positive lab test, but we don't have the death certificate yet. So we list them as probable and until we get the death certificate information. We get the death certificate information that says the death was related to COVID-19, then it becomes confirmed. Or if we get the death certificate that says it's not related to COVID-19, then we take them off the probable list. Does anybody have any questions about that? Because I think listing things as probable has raised some concerns that we're not being clear on something or if there's some confusion.
That clarification there certainly helps, and that actually was one of our questions that we had for you this morning.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready for other questions, or do you have?
No, I'll go. Yes, I'm ready for other questions on what I just presented. Otherwise, I'll start talking about masks and what's going on in schools.
Great. Let's go to masks. Thank you.
I want to acknowledge Beaufort County for its mask mandate and bring you some data on effectiveness. Some of you may already know this, but and then maybe this is an update. But DHEC did a comparison where we looked at the number of new cases in counties with and without a mask ordinance in South Carolina. And the counties with the mask ordinance had a much greater decrease in cases over the following month. For example, counties that had a mask ordinance early, starting the week of June 23rd through 29th, they had a 65% greater decrease in cases over the following month compared to counties that didn't have a mask ordinance. Same thing for counties that started the week of June 30th through July 6th. During that critical 4th of July weekend, they had a 39% greater decrease in cases over the following month. I know there's a lot of contention about do masks work or not, and I think from a biological point of view, it's plausible that masks decrease your chance of both transmitting and of getting virus. I mean, it makes sense. You've got a physical barrier. Is it 100%? No, nothing in life is 100%. But any decrease is an advantage when we're dealing with this virus. Epidemiologically, this is evidence that masks work, that it made a difference in a population basis. That Beaufort County's numbers are going down, and I'm sure that's multifactorial. That's about measures that have been put in place. It's about people's behavior, and masks are part of that. So I just wanted to point that out, and we're continuing to monitor that. The next thing I was going to talk about, though, were schools. Last week, someone asked a question about the new school dashboard on the DHEC website, and I think at the time I was thinking, well, it's brand new. Let's see how it goes, because anything that's brand new is subject to glitches. But I think it's actually working very well. We're still missing a few private schools, so we're slowly adding additional schools to that website, and it is updated every Tuesday and Friday afternoon. So as of yesterday afternoon, total in South Carolina, there were 423 cases in K through 12 students and 199 school employees. Almost all of those, though, were isolated cases, not outbreaks, not secondary spread to multiple other students. In Beaufort County specifically, there were 6 schools, 4 public and 2 private, that had fewer than 5 cases in students or staff. I say fewer than 5 because we always, for privacy concerns, if it's fewer than 5, we don't like to give the exact numbers, like whether it's 1 or 2 students in a school. But rest assured that we're not seeing any spread right now. I think that school nurses, school officials, parents are highly aware of the concern about spread in schools, and people are taking action. I would note that one Hilton Head High School had a football player tested positive, and the entire team plus 43 other people needed to quarantine. So even though we've got low numbers, any numbers are a concern because of the impact they have on everybody else. Beaufort also had I think that there was a cheerleader at a high school, Hilton Head High School, and same thing, cheerleader tested positive, the entire cheering squad and a bunch of others from the school needed to quarantine. That's why the numbers are low, though. So quarantine is it seems like a drastic measure, but it works, and it prevents not only the spread within schools, but spread to family and to staff and to teachers. And it helps contribute to keeping Beaufort County's numbers low. Any questions about what I've said about schools?
Not hearing any. Dr. Kelly?
All right. Then the last thing I was going to mention is, you all asked about the new school dashboard, and that dashboard is up there. There's also a long-term care facility dashboard for nursing homes. We now have in South Carolina 165 nursing homes that have those rapid antigen tests. And I think, ramping that up, we're seeing an impact rate decreases in the number of cases and deaths among nursing home residents. But we've added another feature that I hope will help people remain positive, remain optimistic during this pandemic. The new feature looks at the percent of people who have recovered. Now, this is a brand new feature, so we don't have all of the information together we would like to have. Out of the 140,000 plus cases that we have in South Carolina, we have the date of symptom onset for about half of them, 73,528. The good news is, of those for whom we have symptom information, 93.5% have recovered. So yes, we have deaths. Yes, we have some active cases right now, but almost 94% of people who have been infected in South Carolina, as far as we know, have recovered. And that's good news. What I was planning to talk about next week was vaccines, but I welcome any suggestions. What would you like to hear more about?
I'd love to hear more about vaccines. I've got a few questions for you from some of our listeners, if now is a good time for that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The first question is coming to us from Mallory, and Mallory's asking, can you give us your insight into the CDC's recent advisory on the airborne versus droplet debate?
I used to work at CDC. I was at CDC for 14 years, and I know their clearance process is sometimes moves so slowly it's painful, but it always produced in a better product. I think what's happening at CDC is that sometimes because everyone's moving quickly on this, and this whole pandemic is evolving in real time, I think in the effort to get things out as quickly as possible, they moved too quickly, and something got put up there before it had gone through that clearance process. When I say clearance, it's looked at by, if I'm a medical consultant at CDC and I write something, and then it goes through several different layers of scientific scrutiny for verification of language, of is the data there, is the science there, before it then goes up on the website. So my personal view on this is something moved too fast. I'm not working there now, so I don't know. I wasn't a fly on the wall, but I find it credible what CDC is saying, that they posted something too quickly. It had not gone through the right scrutiny. And the fact that it happened on a Friday, I can easily see that would have happened. Now, but to take my personal opinion another step forward, what is the deal with droplets versus aerosol? I think there is good epidemiological evidence, looking at how the virus has spread worldwide and in this country, that most of the spread is via droplet. Why do I say that? Because many of the cases are household contacts, they're close contacts. Yes, there are some infamous reports of spread in the church choir where everybody was staying distant, and yet the virus was aerosolized and people breathed it in. Well, remember, that's a church choir. They're belting out music. This is forced expiration, and there was not much ventilation in the room. There are other cases. For example, There were the 2 busloads of passengers in China, and there was spread on the bus. Well, people were seated on the bus, recirculating air for 90 minutes. And there are a few airplane cases, recirculated air. Those are unusual, though. Those are the exceptions. So I think aerosolization does happen. By that, I mean, I think it is possible to be in the same room, further away than 6 feet from somebody, and still the virus is in the air and you breathe it in. But most cases are from close contact, from being within 6 feet without a mask. So I think what happened at CDC is not a big political drama. I think it was working too fast, and that they will come out with a more measured statement on the aerosolization soon.
Thank you for that answer. We have a couple questions regarding masks. The first one's coming from Linda. And Linda's asking, is there evidence that wearing a mask will decrease immunity from other viruses?
That's a good question. And in fact, there were years of studies on influenza. Will wearing a mask stop transmission of influenza? And those studies basically said, no, masks don't seem to help. Those studies, for example, there were a bunch of them done in 2010 after the H1N1 flu outbreak in 2009. There were a bunch of studies on masks, but they were done with single-layer masks. And with those single-layer masks, it didn't seem to cut down on influenza. The masks that are being recommended now are multi-layered. You need to have at least a 2-layer mask. And there are reasons for that. Sure, viral particles, viruses are tiny, tiny, tiny. They can get through the thread count of even the most tightly woven single sheet of cloth. But there's more to it than that. Droplets, when they hit, even microscopic moist droplets, they hit the outer layer and don't go through to make the inner layer wet. Also, their viruses have electrostatic charges on them. So if you have a mask with a couple of different layers of material, at least 2, ideally 3, that they of different material, not just all cotton, have cotton and polyester or cotton and silk. There's a little electric charge that helps to stop the virus. So sorry, that was a long-winded answer. I do think masks are going to help with cutting down the influenza and other viruses like the common cold. Yes, masks will help.
Thank you for that answer. And as Dr. Kelly gets ready for her next question, I'd encourage you in the chat box. She's asking for suggestions for topics that you would like for her to cover next week on the call. And so please feel free to put those in the chat box or email them directly to us at the Chamber. And Dr. Kelly, the next question is coming from Tom. And Tom is asking how we stop a fall surge, how we prevent a fall surge.
Number 1, get your flu shot, which may seem counterintuitive, but it'll do 2 things. You get your flu shot. Now you are, again, the flu shot's not 100%, but it will decrease your chance of contracting the flu. If you got the flu, that does 2 things. 1, you don't know you have the flu, so you go in to get tested. So now you expose yourself to a healthcare provider, to a testing site. You get tested for flu and for COVID-19. Number 2, if you got the flu, and even if you don't go to get tested, your immunity is lower. You're more susceptible to other conditions, including COVID-19. So getting the flu shot sounds like a different topic, but it's not. It's wrapped in here as well. So what can we do to prevent a fall surge? Get your flu shot, promote getting the flu shot to other people as well. And to keep on keeping on. I mean, I'm reporting the numbers that have decreased in Beaufort County overall in South Carolina as well now compared to August. And August was lower compared to July. So yes, we continue to have infections across the state. Yes, we continue to have small outbreaks in different venues. But overall, we are doing better than we did back in July because of the institution of these behavior practices. The thing that concerns me the most is schools, and I'm sure that's on other people's minds as well. I think school systems, the administrators, teachers have gone a long way towards making schools safe. And I'm hoping that students, not just K through 12, but college and universities, take this seriously as well and are able to behave appropriately around masks and distancing. But you know, the students are only as safe as what's going on in the community as well. So how can we prevent a surge? It is following, I know those behavioral things just sound like the same old, but they work, and getting a flu shot.
Dr. Kelly, thank you so much. And early on in this, we thought it was really important to be providing facts over fear. And the wealth of information you provided today is certainly very helpful with that. I was very encouraged with your 93.5% recovery rate that we're seeing here in South Carolina. Well, we'd like to see that to be 100%. Still optimistic at 93.5 and continuing to go in the right direction on that. So thank you so much for being with us again today. We'll look at the emails and things that we get regarding next week and get those to you. But again, a wealth of information, and we're delighted to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
We'll turn to Hilton Head Island now to get a local perspective about the town's newest park that will be opening soon. And we have with us today Deputy Town Manager Josh Gruber. And Josh has been in Low Country Government Administration since 2011 and with the town of Hilton Head Island since 2018. And many of you may not know, but Josh is also an attorney. And so, Josh, we're looking forward to your update. And I also want to say congratulations to you. I saw yesterday you were named one of the 4 finalists for the town of Hilton Head Island manager's position. So welcome to our call, and we're looking forward to an update, Josh. Thank you.
Good morning, Bill. Thank you all for having me very much. Excited to be able to talk to you today about a really great project that we've got going on. For those of you that have had an opportunity to drive down Pope Avenue on the south end of the island anytime in the last couple of weeks, actually the last couple of months, you're going to see that we've been making a lot of progress on the Celebration Park. For those of you that don't know, that is a new park that we are creating that's going to have a large lawn and stage area that's going to be able to accommodate festivals, concerts, other public gatherings. It's also going to have a destination playground area with an iconic ship, a replica of the Adventure. And then ultimately, it's going to be home to the Sandbox Children's Museum, have walking trails, boardwalks, exercise stations, just a whole bunch of great public amenities. And so we've put together a video to kind of show the public some of the progress that's being made. And so I don't know, Kelly, if you have the ability to play that now, that would be wonderful. So Bill, as you can see from the video, there's a lot of great progress that's being made now that the landscaping and the plants and all those things are coming in. That's really what gives those properties the pop and really makes them beautiful community amenities. Time-wise, we're looking at having the park completed probably around the 1st of November. Unfortunately, given kind of the ongoing concerns with the COVID-19 pandemic, what we're looking to do is probably do a soft opening, which means we'll make sure that the public will be able to have access to the park itself but we will probably hold off on doing kind of an organized community grand opening until sometime in the spring, likely to coincide with the Crescendo Art Celebration, so that we can really kind of formally kick off being able to utilize what's going to be an incredible community amenity.
Josh, thank you. We have a question for you from Raymond, and Raymond is asking if the park will have additional parking spaces for the beach as well as for park access.
So the creation of the park did allow for the installation of some additional parking spaces. It's not a very large amount, but there are going to be some additional ones. What I would encourage folks to do, we're getting ready to have a discussion with a consultant that the town brought on board with regards to a comprehensive parking study. I know one of the things that they've looked at is the possibility of looking at structured parking, possibly in or around that area. And so it's uncertain at this point whether or not that would actually be able to go forward, but it's at least something that's going to be talked about as possibly being something that we can look at doing in the future to provide more parking in that area.
All right, thank you for that answer. This is from Ted, and Ted's asking that you'd mentioned concerts. How many attendees will that area be able to hold for a concert? Post-COVID.
It's going to be very similar in size to kind of what you see with the Shelter Cove area. Pre-COVID days, we would have allowed for people to be packed a little bit tighter than what we would likely see now. So I think that number's kind of up in the air. But when we get to the point where we're able to go ahead and open it up to the park, we'll be able to provide some guidance on kind of what the recommendations would be. And then maybe over time, as that changes and the public health concerns are kind of less of a pressing issue, we'd be able to kind of see greater crowds use it. But in terms of physical space, if you envision kind of what some of the activities are that go on at the Shelter Cove Park, that's what you would be similarly seeing at this place.
Thank you. Another question is, can you tell us about the Children's Museum that's part of the park? Will that open at the same time? And that's coming to us from Roger.
The progress on the Children's Museum is going along. I would say they're probably maybe about 2 months behind in terms of where we're at. And so I don't believe they're going to be able to open the doors at the same time that we open up the park. That's likely going to occur sometime afterwards. Right now, the shell of that facility has been completed, but all of the upfit work is what's kind of being done on the inside. And that's what's going to take a couple of more months for them to complete.
Josh, last question, and this is from me, of the park that you see there. What intrigues you the most? What do you like about what you've seen during the development phase and what you've seen so far?
Well, I think certainly the iconic ship in the playground area. I've got 2 young boys, and I can just imagine them, the fun that they would have being able to use that equipment and run around and play and pretend and be able to do all of that in an area that has public Wi-Fi for the parents to be able to enjoy themselves while they're in the park. The park benches that we have there actually have electrical outlets built into them so that you can charge your devices while you're in the park, allowing your children to play. And so I just look forward to the day when my kids are going to be able to use it, and I think it's going to be an incredible time.
That's great. We just had one more question pop up here from Allison, and Allison was just asking if you know what the park hours will be yet.
Typically most of our park hours are kind of sun up to sundown, so that's what I would anticipate that being with this particular park.
Josh, thanks so much. I know you've got a busy day ahead of you, and we appreciate you sharing the information on the park, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Bill. Take care.
Okay, thank you. Our last speaker this morning is certainly a gentleman that's incredibly busy, and the phrase trial by fire comes to mind when we think of how we could describe Dr. Rodriguez and his tenure so far with the Beaufort County School District. And he's doing a terrific job, and we're looking forward, Dr. Rodriguez, to hearing the latest from you this morning. And thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it, and appreciate the opportunity to join you this morning. I'm joining you a little bit late, as just finished a conference call with state superintendents, and I'm excited to share with you that we've already successfully welcomed back our special need students, low incident special needs students, back into buildings that we started that last week, and we have had pretty good success with that. Our remaining students who expressed a preference for face-to-face instruction during the registration process will be back on a hybrid model on October 5th. Will be the first day of that. Our position as a district has always been that we would return to face-to-face instruction when it was safe to do so. I've been encouraged by decrease in DHEC's COVID-19 metrics in recent weeks. And that said, students whose parents have chosen all virtual learning will be able to continue their academic work online. I know that some may have struggled with either connectivity issues. We have been able to supply those that have reached out to us with a connectivity issue, MiFi devices. We've issued 470 MiFi devices, which essentially allow them to connect remotely. So any of those that have reached out have received MiFi devices. I will say that I've also heard from some parents who have had very, very positive experiences in their virtual learning mode, and I'm glad that they'll be able to remain in that format that's working well for their family during this pandemic, if that was the choice that they had made. For those who will be returning to school buildings in a hybrid AA or BB model, where half of the school's population that desired face-to-face instruction would be able to attend school on Monday and Tuesday, the other half would attend on Thursday and Friday, and Wednesday is a virtual learning day for all of them. On the days, it's my hope that offering the hybrid model will be able to provide our students that face-to-face instruction that we know is important, and then eventually resuming more towards a 5-day-a-week model when it's safe to do that, and we'll continue to monitor. But we hope also that will relieve some of the burden that certainly our families have experienced during the initial couple of weeks of virtual learning. Please know that we will be conducting continuous evaluation of DHEC metrics as well as our own metrics in schools throughout the hybrid process. That the common sense precautions that we're now all taking in our day-to-day lives have produced some very positive results. And so I ask that we remember that in order for us to begin face-to-face instruction and then be able to continue that face-to-face instruction, that we all stay vigilant and we all stay safe as a community. Also, some exciting news for you today. We will have a ribbon cutting ceremony at River Ridge Academy, celebrating the official opening of some of the expanded classroom wings. Work is now complete on 4 classroom expansions, existing wings, and work is nearing completion on a new wing featuring 8 additional classrooms. These classrooms are scheduled to be available for teachers and students by the end of October. So despite all of the complications caused by coronavirus, it's wonderful to see that this referendum project was completed on schedule. The teamwork between the school district and our contractors has been extraordinary. We as a district want to thank the community for supporting the November 2019 bond referendum that made this expansion possible, as well as other modifications and buildings that are going to take place in the next throughout the next couple of years. There's been, as you know, large growth in Bluffton area. Adding 16 classrooms is going to help meet current need. In closing, I want to share with you that I look forward to welcoming our students back into our schools. As I mentioned before, schools are lonely places without our students there. We miss them. We love them. We can't wait to see them. And I ask that we all please continue to wear masks, social distance, so we can resume a traditional 5-day-a-week instruction sooner rather than later. Again, I'm proud to be your superintendent, and I'll take any questions.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. The first question is coming from Annabelle. And Annabelle is asking, are schools installing HEPA filters or ultraviolet air disinfectant in schools, HVAC systems to risk the risk or reduce the risk of transmission?
We have essentially what we're following is the recommendations that we have received certainly from from DHEC, from CDC. Our operations department has been looking at this closely and making sure that we're in a situation that we can protect health and safety of our students. So you know, that's what I think be able to share right now. Any further detail, I'll have to get back with our operations team and provide that to you.
Okay, thank you for that answer. The next question is coming from Jim, and Jim is asking, what insights have you gleaned from schools around the states that have opened? Are there any best practices that you've seen?
Yes, so I stay in touch with different superintendents across the state, and essentially some of the best practices we already have that we're employing, which is that 6 feet social distancing to the extent possible, masks, requirement of masks. Additionally, the hybrid model has been a good model for the majority of the school districts in the state are utilizing a hybrid model. I want to say it's about 60 some school districts. So as we stay in contact with them, some of the very key protocols, signage in buildings, traffic patterns within buildings, those are all part of our individual school plans that they have within their buildings to make sure that it's safe. That's really a great question, and we continue to all learn from each other in different counties, school districts.
Thank you. Another question from Kim, and Kim is asking, has the Beaufort County School District received elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds from the state? And if so, have these funds been, or how will these funds be allocated?
Yep. So I'm assuming this is related to the CARES Act funding, and so we have received CARES Act funding. That's allocated in terms of technology support. It's allocated in terms of PPE equipment, for example, masks for teachers, masks for students. Additionally, face shields available. Additionally, plexiglass installations for example, in front offices, as well as in classrooms as well. Disinfectants, hand sanitizers, a lot of the PPE equipment that has come recommended is what we're utilizing in disinfectant equipment as well.
Okay, another question for us comes from Rachel, and Rachel is asking if school playgrounds will be open for students, and if so, what the protocols will be.
Yep. So I think probably initially in the first week they may not be, but as we move beyond that, it comes down to the cleaning protocols that take place, and so that'll be all a part of the reopening within schools to make sure that equipment used, high touch areas, high touch surfaces, part of the cleaning plan to keep them clean. So essentially, that's we're going to have additional staffing at schools that are going to be responsible for those high touch areas that will be utilized. So initially, probably in the first week, we'll have recess and those types of things in elementary schools, but maybe in that first week we may not be on that playground specifically, and then we'll phase into that.
All right, thank you for that answer. Next question comes from Nancy, and Nancy is asking, is there any condition with learning pods to keep those children on the same schedule?
So this is, obviously it's highly complicated trying to fit a fully virtual model, hybrid, face-to-face model, pods that exist, and those sorts of things, because it's you have to balance your the number of students in your classes and the number of students in your buildings, right? That's the whole purpose behind the hybrid approach. And so I think schools are working as much as possible with families around that, but they may not be able to honor those types of things. We first have to honor the family by alphabet letters so that we can keep kids in the same family on the same schedule, whether it's particularly when you're dealing with a middle school child and an elementary child or a high school child where they're in different levels, to keep them on the same schedule so that it facilitates it for families. We recognize that the pod component has been helpful for many families in supporting each other through this. So I think our schools are working as best as they can to try to support that. But their initial response in working at it is trying to organize around individual families with names, with last names.
Thank you. And then lastly, Dr. Rodriguez, our Chambers Project Connect Committee will be distributing gift cards this afternoon to 39 teachers whose wishes were granted, going to 9 public schools, and the monetary and direct amount of approximately $6,000 that
Wow.
a grant that we were successful in getting from the Walmart Foundation, and then the local business community coming in and stepping in to help provide additional dollars. So we'll be doing that at 4:30, and again, 39 teachers' wishes were granted, and we're delighted to be a part of that.
That is fantastic. Awesome. It's amazing. And we can't thank you enough. And we're so proud of our teachers, and anything that when we see things like this happening for them. It's wonderful and exciting.
Dr. Rodriguez, thank you for being with us. Thank you for the update, and thank you for the great job that you're doing. And please know that on behalf of our members, the business community, don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know how we can further assist you, your district, and your teachers.
We will, Bill, appreciate it. Thank everyone on the call as well. Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
You too.
That's going to conclude our call for today. We appreciate you being with us. Looking forward to next week. And again, be kind, stay safe, and wear your mask. Have a great rest of your week, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.